What happens after the final breath? Does the self completely vanish, or does it pass through mysterious gates beyond human understanding? Welcome, soul traveler, to the realm of the deepest secrets. Today, we explore one of the most enigmatic and profound texts of Tibetan Buddhism, Bardo Thodol, more commonly known in the West as the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Imagine a guide that accompanies you through the most complex and unknown moments of existence. This is precisely the role of Bardo Thodol. This work is not merely a book describing the moment of death. It is a spiritual guide, a map for the post-death period. Be ready, for together we will pass through these mysterious gates, uncover its messages, and perhaps come to a deeper understanding of the true meaning of existence. The Bardo Thodol is attributed to Padmasambhava, a legendary and almost mythical figure in Tibetan Buddhism. Originating from India, he is celebrated as the pioneer who introduced Buddhism to Tibet in the 8th century. Tibetan tradition honors him as Guru Rinpoche, meaning precious teacher. However, Padmasambhava was far more than a monk. He was a profound spiritual guide, a yogi adept in mystical practices and esoteric teachings. The Bardo Thodol emerged from his aspiration to assist not only the living but also the departed, providing them with a path to spiritual freedom even after death. From an early age, Padmasambhava demonstrated exceptional spiritual insight and abilities, earning recognition as a Mahasiddha, someone who attains an extraordinary level of spiritual realization and develops siddhis, or miraculous powers. Invited to Tibet by King Trisong Detsen, who sought to solidify Buddhism and spiritually unify the nation, Padmasambhava played a pivotal role in shaping Tibetan spiritual traditions. During that era, Tibet was steeped in shamanic rituals and animistic traditions, deeply tied to the Bon religion, the native spiritual practice of Tibet. This diverse and often chaotic spiritual landscape posed significant obstacles to the introduction of Buddhism. Upon arriving, Padmasambhava encountered resistance from various cultural and spiritual factions. The spirits and deities associated with Bon traditions opposed Buddhism, but Padmasambhava employed his mastery of tantric rituals and magical knowledge to subdue and harmonize these forces. This synthesis of Bon practices with Buddhist teachings laid a strong spiritual foundation for Buddhism's growth in Tibet. As a result, Padmasambhava established Tibet's first Buddhist monastery, the Sami Monastery, where he began imparting profound teachings about the mind, the nature of reality, and the cycle of existence known as samsara. In Tibetan Buddhism, death is viewed not as an end but as a transition, a pivotal moment offering the potential for spiritual awakening. Padmasambhava recognized that at the time of death, the mind enters a unique state, unencumbered by the physical body and more attuned to ultimate truth. He understood this as a rare chance for liberation, but also acknowledged that most individuals upon dying are ensnared by illusions and fears, which prevent them from seizing this opportunity. His goal was to create a guide to be recited by those attending to the dying or studied during life, to prepare the mind for the bardos, the transitional states after death. At its core, his work aimed to alleviate suffering and create pathways to enlightenment, even in moments of uncertainty and dissolution. This compassion is the essence of the Bardo Thodol. Padmasambhava recognized that many might not attain enlightenment in their lifetime, yet he saw in death one final opportunity for liberation. Thus, he provided instructions to help practitioners and disciples recognize the clear light, the pure and unconditioned nature of the mind, at the moment of their passing. The 3 stages of Bardo Thodol. The Bardo Thodol provides guidance through 3 primary states, or bardos, that every soul encounters. The first is the Chikhai Bardo, the phase of death itself. In this stage, the soul experiences the process of dying. a transition where the physical body disintegrates and consciousness is released from its material confines. Once this dissolution is complete, the soul is presented with the primordial clear light, described in the Bardo Thodol as an immense, radiant, and pure brilliance. This clear light is the manifestation of the ultimate nature of the mind, a state of pure, unconditional awareness, free from duality, fear, or attachment. Some may refer to it as the higher self, others as the solar consciousness. There are numerous interpretations of this state, but all point to a realm of infinite peace and totality. For the spiritual seeker, the Chikhai Bardo offers a rare opportunity for complete liberation. If the soul can recognize the clear light as its own essence, it achieves immediate freedom, entering nirvana without needing to progress through the subsequent bardos. This recognition does not require rituals or religious systems. It is a direct, unmediated encounter with truth, where the mind perceives itself clearly, unclouded by illusions or distortions. In this moment, all forms of conditioning, karma, and ego-based identities vanish. However, for those unprepared for such intensity, the experience of the clear light can be overwhelming or frightening. Instead of recognizing the light as their true nature, the mind may perceive it as something threatening due to fear or attachment to the familiar. In such cases, the soul withdraws, missing the chance for liberation, and progresses into the subsequent bardos. In these stages, it encounters visions and experiences shaped by its karmic patterns, often increasingly fragmented and limiting. 2. The Chönyid Bardo, the Bardo of Visions. As Carl Gustav Jung famously stated, gods and demons are projections of the unconscious, powerful forces that remain unavoidable until we recognize them as aspects of our own psyche. In the Chönyid Bardo, the soul exists in a state of consciousness unbound by the physical form, entering a dimension where tangible boundaries dissolve entirely. Within this realm, the soul encounters manifestations of its own mind, visions that can appear as celestial, angelic beings or as terrifying, unsettling figures. This stage unveils the mind's core, bringing forth everything that has been repressed, desired, or feared, now amplified in vivid detail. The experiences within the Chönyid Bardo mirror the emotional and karmic imprints the soul has accumulated throughout its many lifetimes. These visions fall into two categories: peaceful and wrathful. During the phase of peaceful visions, the soul is met with appearances of benevolent deities representing enlightened and compassionate aspects of consciousness. These may manifest as Buddhas, bodhisattvas, or radiant beings, symbolizing the positive qualities nurtured by the soul. These peaceful entities exude serenity and offer a sense of tranquility. However, for an unprepared mind, such visions can feel overwhelming or confusing, causing the soul to withdraw or question the authenticity of these experiences. If the soul fails to recognize the peaceful nature of these initial visions, it transitions to the phase of wrathful visions. In this stage, the soul encounters more intense and fearsome forms, known as wrathful deities. These figures symbolize repressed anger, fear, and unfulfilled desires, taking on grotesque or frightening appearances. Crucially, these wrathful entities are not external or evil beings, but are instead projections of the mind itself. They embody the unresolved attachments and emotional patterns that tether the soul to the cycle of suffering and rebirth. The Chönyid Bardo is described as a state in which the mind is unshackled from the constraints of the physical body. It is a pure realm of mental manifestations where everything is magnified. The visions that arise are similar to dreams, but possess an extraordinary clarity and vividness, far beyond ordinary dreaming. This heightened intensity occurs because the mind, liberated from its physical vessel, experiences its inner energies without distortion. All that has been suppressed or stored within the psyche surfaces with remarkable force. These visions are viewed as opportunities for insight and spiritual growth, as each represents an aspect of the self that must be understood, integrated, or transcended. Those who maintain full awareness during this bardo can discern that all these visions, whether serene or terrifying, are simply constructs of the mind. Recognizing this truth allows the soul to dispel fear and achieve liberation. During this phase, the Bardo Thodol encourages the soul to concentrate on the clear light, the fundamental essence of the mind, described as a vast, radiant purity. Identifying with the clear light is the pathway to ultimate liberation, as it reflects the true nature of all beings. This light is like the sun shining beyond the clouds of mental projections, unaltered by the visions that appear. If the soul can perceive beyond the illusions of these visions, it can attain enlightenment and escape the cycle of rebirth. However, for most individuals, recognizing the clear light is a profound challenge. The visions feel so tangible and personal that it becomes difficult to look past them. To prepare for this, the Bardo Thodol advises spiritual practitioners to train during life to detach from illusions and deeply contemplate the mind's nature. With such preparation, even in the face of the intense visions of the Chönyid Bardo, they can maintain their focus on the clear light and find peace. Fear and attachment are the greatest obstacles to liberation. The visions, especially the wrathful deities representing the untamed aspects of the psyche, can evoke deep fear. This fear fosters a sense of separation, preventing the soul from recognizing these images as parts of its own mind. The soul may either attempt to flee from the frightening visions or cling to the peaceful ones out of attachment, which keeps it bound to the cycle of samsara. To break free from this cycle, the soul must realize that the visions lack any inherent reality. In Tibetan Buddhism, this is the concept of shunyata, or emptiness. The mind that recalls emptiness during the Chönyid Bardo can observe all visions without attachment, understanding them as temporary expressions of its own nature. Thus, the experience of the Chönyid Bardo is not punishment or meaningless suffering. It is a revelatory process where the soul confronts the reflections of its own mind. It is a test that distinguishes those ready for liberation from those who must return to rebirth to continue their spiritual journey. 3. The Sidpa Bardo, the rebirth stage. In the Sidpa Bardo, the final phase, the soul encounters a pivotal moment, the decision about its next existence, determined by the accumulated energy from all its past actions, thoughts, and intentions, known as karma. It is as if every step of the journey has led up to this moment, where the inner energy of the soul dictates its next destination. After experiencing dissolution in the Chikhai Bardo and confronting its own projections and illusions in the Chönyid Bardo, the soul enters a state of heightened psychic density, where the desire for rebirth becomes more intense, driven by unresolved fears and attachments. This longing for a new existence is what, according to Tibetan Buddhism, compels the soul to seek a fresh body and a new form of life. In the Sidpa Bardo, the soul's consciousness is shaped by its karmic tendencies, subtle imprints left by actions from previous lifetimes. These imprints act like magnetic forces, drawing the soul toward experiences and circumstances that reflect its inner state. For example, if the soul is burdened by fear, it may find itself drawn to a rebirth where that fear will be confronted again. Likewise, deep desires and unhealed emotions create a powerful pull, shaping the kind of life the soul will experience in the next cycle. During this bardo, the soul is exposed to a series of visions related to the process of rebirth. These often feature images of couples uniting, a symbolic representation of the creation of new life. The soul is called to choose a new body, guided unconsciously by its karmic impulses and emotional patterns. The Bardo Thodol suggests that, upon encountering these images, the soul should remain detached and clear-minded. Only through such awareness can it avoid being driven blindly into an undesirable rebirth. For those who can maintain calmness and detachment, the Sidpa Bardo offers one final opportunity for transcendence. The possibility exists to avoid rebirth entirely and instead choose the path of liberation. This is the aim of the spiritual practitioner. Rather than being swept away by attachments and illusions, they must recognize these visions as mere mental projections, fleeting and empty in nature. Throughout the experiences of the Sidpa Bardo, the soul feels a powerful attraction toward a new body. According to the Bardo Thodol, this process is likened to a psychic storm, a magnetic pull that makes the desire for continued existence irresistible. The choice of the new body is not a conscious decision. It happens through an instinctive, unconscious drive, with the nature of the new life being shaped by the soul's mental state. The next body serves as a mirror, reflecting the unresolved experiences or lessons the soul must encounter. This process underscores the Buddhist understanding that each rebirth presents an opportunity for spiritual growth. The body the soul chooses will align with its karmic and spiritual needs. However, many souls fail to recognize this opportunity, resulting in a rebirth that places them in challenging or unfavorable circumstances. Ultimately, many end up reincarnating into unfavorable conditions, where suffering is continually sustained. However, those who can look beyond this illusion may reach a state where, instead of being reborn, they can merge with the clear light, the supreme essence of the mind. The Bardo Thodol teaches that preparation for this final stage begins during our lifetime. By contemplating the nature of our desires and fears while we are still alive, we can increase our awareness of the impulses that shape our future. Spiritual practices such as meditation and contemplation on death strengthen the ability to detach, helping the mind to remain unaffected by the dramas that arise during the Sidpa Bardo. In this way, the Sidpa Bardo reveals a profound truth, that life and death are interconnected, and the cycle of rebirth is merely a continuous reflection of our own choices and perceptions. By releasing our attachments, we free ourselves from the endless cycle of rebirth and attain enlightenment, a state in which rebirth no longer occurs because the illusion of a fixed identity is transcended. The Bardo Thodol is not just a spiritual text or a collection of esoteric teachings. It is a tool for self-awareness, a mirror for our minds, and a guide for our fate. It reminds us that death marks the end of the human journey, but it also opens the door to new beginnings. As Ram Dass once said, "When you die, the only question that matters is, how much did you love?" In this sense, the Tibetan Book of the Dead invites us to examine our lives. Are we prepared for the final journey? Are we ready to release everything we think we are? Perhaps by contemplating these teachings, we can not only prepare for death, but also learn how to live more fully. If this exploration of the unknown resonates with you, share this video and subscribe to the channel. Feel free to share in the comments what intrigues you most about life after death. The path to self-knowledge is long, and together, we can unravel the greatest mysteries of existence.